Welcome to GoSimcha, the podcast that takes you on an in-depth approach to the Jewish music, entertainment, and Simcha world. Now, here's your host, Zeesha Littman. Hey everybody, welcome back to an awesome episode of GoSimcha, the podcast. We're hitting off season 3 now, episode 5. I'm really excited to have this guy on my show. I've been chasing him forever since we started the show. And it's funny because he's literally right in my backyard. So you can't really run forever, and I'm finally happy to be sitting down with him. He's in his studio. I'm in my studio. Again, it's not really a studio, whatever. It's our nice little headquarters here in Ramat Beit Shemesh. So coming to you on a lovely Sunday instead of Tuesday. We're from Ramat Beit Shemesh. We're sitting off with Dovid Lowy, who just released a brand new single. He just helped us with us out here in Beit Shemesh with one of our big fundraisers. One of the local organizations did a big fundraiser. He just had a big schluss in that. And now he's sitting down to have the ultimate schluss of joining us on GoSimcha, the podcast. So Dovid, Shalom Aleichem, welcome to the show.
Aleichem Shalom. Thank you so much for having me. It's about time.
Yeah. So where have you been hiding, honestly?
That's true. I was just waiting for you to build up this huge podcast so that I could finally be featured with such a huge following. I didn't want to start when you just had, only a couple of followers. Now that you're really, prominent podcast,
Well, listen, Avram Fried came on. And he said to me, he said, Zeesha, now that I made it onto GoSimcha, the podcast, I can retire. I said, well, I'm happy that I got you to retire. But
seriously, I think you've had every single musician or artist besides me. So it was just about time that I had to get on here already, because otherwise people don't think I exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we know you exist. And I actually see you. It's funny, living in Ramat Beit Shemesh, we're surrounded by so many celebrities. And where I live specifically in the shopping center, I look off my porch, I see every single person. I've seen Nissan Black. I've seen you come around to the ice cream store a couple times. I see all sorts of people come and go. So, we live in a very famous city. But enough about Ramat Beit Shemesh. No one cares about this place. What's up with you? What's your deal? What's your story starting from back in the day? Because you have a very colorful, judging from your albums, you have a very colorful musical career.
Thank you. I like that word, colorful. Yes. I see you picked up on the pattern. A lot of my albums are very colorful.
That's true. Sure.
So starting from where? Where do you want to start from?
I don't know. Back in the day. You take me back in time to when Dovid Lowy first started singing and dancing.
All right. Well, how much time do we have for this podcast?
We got about 35, 40 minutes. Don't worry. It's okay. We tend to time warp.
Yeah,
we tend to time warp.
I mean, basically, as a child, I loved music. I wasn't in any sort of choir or anything like that, but there's been a lot of, my family's very musical. My older brother was in Miami Boys Choir. He brought, the music into the home, the Jewish music. I don't know if you want to go that way. Why? I wasn't in Miami Boys Choir. I was very shy as a kid, basically. In a nutshell, I'm still a very quiet and reserved person. It took me many years to try to get out there and to, push myself to pursue this. But as a child, I wasn't really anything I wasn't in any choir or anything like that. But always playing guitar, always singing, always coming up with tunes and stuff like that. And basically, I decided around, I think it was 7-8 years ago, that I was going to decide, I kind of decided, and also kind of the way things came together, the different people that I've met and stuff kind of led me into this position where I felt like I wanted to go further with this music thing. I never thought of it as like a profession or as a parnasa thing. It was more just a passion. And it kind of one thing led to another. Before I knew it, I was basically about 7 years ago, I started making an album when I didn't even really know what it meant to make an album. I was producing it without really knowing what it meant to be a producer. I was speaking to arrangers. I didn't understand the whole thing with there's arrangers, there's producers. I didn't even understand all that, but yet I was making an album. And somehow I was kind of learning on the job, so to speak. The way just everything came together and the different influences I had in my life at that time that kind of led me to giving me that push to make this album. And that was my first album, Atay Madi, which ended up taking me about 2 years to work on. It came out about 5 years ago. And that was, I guess, my initial, introduction to the music world, if you want to call it. And since then, I've had a couple other albums and projects that I've worked on. And that's the very short version, I guess.
Yeah, you've been on some very, very famous projects. You worked with one of my buddies, Pinchas Wolf.
Oh, I didn't know he's your buddy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
How's he your
Him and
buddy?
well, I'm from Detroit, and him and I go
Ah,
way back. Him and my parents are good
huh,
friends, and
wow.
him and I when I was in America last summer. Him and I had some very good conversations, and that man is like incredible. Like the guy is
Yeah.
incredible, and
Yeah.
it must have been a supposed to be on to work with him.
Yes, I had this supposed to be on two of his albums. I think he put out four. I was on the second and the last one. And the last one I did, we even did a music video together, and it
Yeah,
was actually quite popular. Yom
that that
Yom gets requested a lot. It's
that
yeah,
is actually one of my favorite songs.
really
That out of all the Jewish music out there in the world, that happens to be one of my favorite songs, and I'm not just telling you that because you're staring right at me. I
okay.
really enjoyed it, and it's true. You know, like Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. Someone asks you how you doing, say Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. I say that
Yeah,
every single time when someone says to me how you doing, I say Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. 'Cause every day is a
exactly.
new
Yeah.
day, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, it seems like you've been on a lot of different collaborations with people. It seems like your music has made its way into a number of different places. Here locally, I know you're definitely a big celebrity. We like you over here.
Thank
Um,
you.
but how I noticed a pattern with your albums. You said you have a couple albums out there. I noticed you have 3 albums and a bunch of singles. And I noticed a pattern with your albums. You have like you have like some slow songs. You have one or two of them it's slow songs, but then the other ones are very upbeat and colorful and mostly in English. Any
Yeah, a
reason
lot of.
why?
So I mean, I can go into like a whole in-depth and analyzing that whole thing and where I'm coming from. Basically, my first album, I think there was definitely a transition from the way my first album started to how my second and my other projects have progressed. Also where I was coming from, I was still learning in Kollel at the time when I was just kind of at the end of Kollel slash I was becoming a Rebbe. I was a Rebbe at Esha Torah for 2 years, and I
Nice.
was very into I was very into like pursuing music as really like a spiritual thing. Like like I said, it wasn't like a parnasa thing. I wasn't doing any of the right moves. I'll tell you that. I wasn't, I did everything in the wrong way if I was doing it for parnasa. That's just pretty much. I wasn't moving back to New York to sing, at weddings and do that whole thing. And I wasn't. And a lot of people I know that did do that, and like it was hard for me a little bit because I saw afterwards that like after you invest so much into it and you kind of want it to sort of be a livelihood, you're realizing like maybe I shouldn't be where I'm living. Maybe I should change certain things, and but it wasn't really my goal in the beginning, and I tried to stay true to it. So going back to your original question, so originally my music was very much like I just wanted to be very soulful and just like touch, the neshama, and I had this like image that like music had to be a certain way to do that. And
Right.
so I think my first album really came out much more like what they would call hartzig or neshama type of music
Yeah.
that would accomplish that. I kind of came to the realization, sort of in between my first album and my second album, that music doesn't have to be that way only to touch a soul. And especially, I think it could be even, it could relate to people a lot more even if you're doing something upbeat, something fresh, something, and that could equally, if not more, talk to the neshama also. And my second album is actually called Inspire because that really was what I felt my whole mission was all about with my music, to really inspire. And you asked why I did with English words. I felt there's really a need, and Baruch Hashem, there's a lot of music out there, so I'm not, one to say
Right.
that I could take credit for this at all. But I really felt that, the English lyrics really speaks to people on a deeper level or connects to them more than sometimes saying a pasuk, even though there's such depth to psukim and,
Right.
to words of Chazal, but sometimes speaking in their own language, which is what my own language is, English, American type of language. That's where I was coming from with that. And that was Inspire. And yeah.
That's great. Well, that makes sense because everyone creates their music and connects with people on their own level, and to be able to say, well, I'm going to connect with people in the language that I know and I speak, and I mean, I'm sure you speak fluent Hebrew, but you know,
Not really.
it's
I live
great.
in Ramat Beit Shemesh.
That's true. The joke here. You have to bring your passport when you get on the bus.
Yeah,
But no, it's okay. But it's good that you're able to connect with people on your level, and your music. It really shows within your music, because each their own. You know, there's 1,000,001 people out there doing Jewish music. Everyone thinks they're a Jewish music singer, but at the end of the
Right.
day, if you don't have that uniqueness and that original tom to you, then it just kind of gets lost in the sauce. And I think that what really shows about your stuff is that you're very vibrant, you're very frail, you're very upbeat and very positive, and it really shows within your music. Even like the Hartzika stuff, it's still very positive. It's still very like geschmack. It's good, and it shows. Like I said, you have a very colorful career, and I was going to ask you, what's with the colors? Like it seemed like your albums are all colorful themes and things like that.
Right.
Like, what's with the colors?
I think it just became that way, especially with my new song that came. I mean, I have a song first of all called "Colorful," which I put out
Right.
2 summers ago, which was actually very successful. It made it, especially in a lot of the camps. I got a tremendous amount of feedback from camps, which seems to be really like the place where a lot of songs take off, where like they use it for their theme songs. They get so many requests for the music track that they use for their own songs or whatever. But that song really got a very nice feedback. So that song's called "Colorful." I mean, like you said, I try in my best way to make to bring out in music a positive and a colorful message. That things seem dark and things should that mushal, I guess, of color being just a bright and happy and positive future. I try to bring that out in my songs. So yeah, my Inspire album has that splash of paint on it, which is just colorful, inspirational, lively feel. And I have a song "Colorful" and my new song "Batachti" also. I wanted it to have that feel, especially in times like this. Things seem
Right.
so dark, that to give a
Yeah.
little bit of that, positive feel.
No, that's amazing. Now, you mentioned something how before when you were starting off your musical career, you were still a Rebbe in age, and you saw people moving back to America, and you were trying to figure out if you're doing the right thing or not. You were kind of in that conundrum. What who were your contemporaries that were doing that? I mean, I know when I had Morty Shapiro on the show, he was one of those people. He was here, and then his Rebbe told him, go back to America and make music, and the rest is history. But like,
Right. We were actually neighbors in Ramat Eshkol. Before I moved to Ramat Beit Shemesh, I lived in Ramat Eshkol. I didn't know Morty like personally, but I knew of him. We weren't like, he actually lived, I think, in a building or two over from me. We davened in the same shtibel. And I remember hearing him that he's moving back, and I didn't really know who he was. And I know he tried to make it here. It is very difficult, especially for like an American type singer.
Right.
Yeah. And it's totally not. It's just like if you want to make it your career, it makes sense to move to the Hollywood quote of singers, which is like the New York, New Jersey area. And yeah, it makes sense to do that. And I had a lot of pressure after, especially like I said, when I started my album, I didn't know what the Jewish music world. I was very like naive, or you want to call it pure.
You're green.
You want to be.
You were green.
I just what's green?
You're like green. You're fresh. You're new. You don't know anything.
Yeah, I didn't know. I really just didn't know. I just said, oh, I'm gonna put out a song, and like I felt like, okay, I didn't realize like someone made a joke to me like after I finished the album, then I was like ready to put it out. They're like, okay, now it's called music business because first you do the music and then you realize there's the business. I was like, what business? I'm just putting out music to inspire people and it's gonna take off, right? Like, no, you have to do something called marketing. I'm like, marketing? Like you're not gonna make a video? You have to like pay a marketing guy. I'm like, well, what is all that? Like, I just want to put out music and touch people's neshamas. And like, I really was very naive with the whole thing.
You're a purist.
And after I put it out, I got a lot of pressure. Yeah, I got a lot of pressure from people saying like, if you want to pursue this as a career, like you should really move back to America. And at that time, I just wanted to settle in and move to Ramat Beit Shemesh and like settle here and live in Eretz Yisrael. I was like living a dream of like Israel and learning and teaching Torah and like it was so amazing. And it was really a struggle for me for a while. I would say for about 2 years or so, I really was in, we used to go, this summer, we're probably not going to go back as a situation, but we try to visit. We have no family here, my wife and I.
I know the feeling.
It's challenging. Yeah, it's challenging for us. And we try to go back in the summers to visit. And like going back in the summer was just so hard. We're like, maybe we should be here. Like I was getting certain opportunities there. And like, maybe, if I really want to pursue this full time, like it really is a challenge. But I mean, Baruch Hashem, over the last couple of years, I have seen a tremendous amount of Siyata D'Shmaya here. It's not quite like I think if I would live in other places where there's more of that. Let's face it, I'm living in Israel as an American singer. It doesn't really fit the the exact.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah. But there are opportunities here, and yeah.
No, for sure. I was actually having this conversation on Shabbos with my wife about people moving back to America and things like that, and it was actually one of my roommates from Yeshiva who said it. Like, if your head is in America, you'll never be able to live here. If your head is always thinking you're going to be back in America, like you want to live in America, you're never going to make it here. you know.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
it's, you know, you're here, you're sticking around, you're not going anywhere. It's a different challenge than being. It's like in America to be a Jewish music singer. Like I said, it's a dime a dozen. Like there's a million and one guys who are Jewish music singer. Everyone wants to be the next Shweki. Everyone wants to be the next Mordechai Shapiro. But like, you know, here it's much more of a challenge, but it's probably much more rewarding, more fulfilling, because you're not only are you doing it here in Eretz Kodesh, but you're doing it on a different madrega, where you know that it's, you know, not everybody's going to book you for a gig, because the Israelis like the Israeli singers and the Americans don't want to pay the price for the, you know how it is, especially even here in Beit Shemesh, like the Americans still don't want to pay it. But at the
Right.
end of the day, it's much more rewarding, because you're doing so many mitzvahs in the process, that you're living in Israel, you're making people besimcha, you're doing your music, you're making a parnasa, and you're happy, and that's what it's all
Yeah.
about. Baruch Hashem Yom Yom.
That's right. That's right.
And it's
That's right.
cool, you know. Do you do weddings?
I do. I do simchas here. I do different events. Yeah. Like I said, there are opportunities that come up. I guess it's not like the American scene, you know. It's not like, you know, you're
Right.
doing one every night here or something, and you're definitely not getting paid what they pay over
No.
there. But
No.
there are opportunities. I must say that it's not my bread and butter, which also it leaves me still with a mila that I get to keep it as my passion. You know, I speak to people that they have to put out a new album because they have to pay their mortgage, or they have
Right.
to put out, you know, they have to do a concert. And, you know, it's one thing when you sing because you want to sing, then you can really put your neshama into it. Like, I want to come out with a song, it's because I really want a message to get out there. I feel like Baruch Hashem, I don't need it to, you know, to pay for my bills. I mean, it's always extra stuff. It's great. The gigs
Right.
I do is always great. But Baruch Hashem, it's not my main source of income.
Right.
So, you know, I like it like that. It's very rewarding. I can really keep it as my passion.
Yeah, I was about to say, it seems like it keeps it, like it keeps that geschmack, and it keeps that going in you. So you're not, I guess, quote unquote, to say a sellout. You're kind of,
Right.
yeah. Hey, listen, we're talking music, but you're still doing it for the music. You're still doing it for the love of the music, for that passion, and I can tell in your songs. I can tell that it's in you, it's embodied in you, and that's part of the koach of music, is that it really embodies you, and that it really brings out that kedusha and brings that brings that out in people, and you can tell, like that it's in you, and that passion's in you. So it's cool, you know, Kanai Nahara, that like it all worked out for the best, you know, because
Sure.
Because again, like, you know, like you go back, you never know what could have been in America, like, because I know this for a fact, because I sit with every single one of your contemporaries, and we have the same, more or less same conversation, not really, but it's everyone's competing with everybody, and you know, it's a dog eat dog world out there, and it's expensive to put out these albums, and it's not, and you know, if you're trying to do it for the money, if you're trying to make a living off of it, you know, it's Jewish music. You know, you're not going to go platinum. You're not going to sell 1 million records unless you're MBD, unless you're like freed, you know. So you got to have a side hustle or something. And like I said, I think it's really awesome that you do this, like, pure simcha, pure, like, just pure.
I try. That's all I could do. I just try. I don't really take credit for it. I don't think I'm, you know, God's gift to the world or anything like that. I just try to do my best. I think a lot of other people are doing a great job, you know, as well. It's not.
Baruch Hashem. Now, your latest your latest single. What's the story behind that?
So that song, there's a lot of unique things about this song, actually. So the way that I like I said, I sort of became like a music producer throughout this whole process of, like, you know, I kind of jumped into the deep waters on my first album, and I learned a lot from that first album. And you know, when it comes to producing a song, it could sometimes be like a whole process of, you know, first of all, I compose like 99% of my own songs. You know, I do have a few exceptions, especially in my first album. I was not as confident, and I went out to some other composers. But most of the material I like composing on my own. It speaks to me, but often I don't do well with lyrics. It's just not my gift, you know.
Right.
This song was actually the first song that I actually wrote lyrics to, And the reason is because, when this whole thing started, this whole Corona business, it was very hard. I'm sure everybody out there was very hard for it, but just, I just remember like one day after another, it was just getting worse and worse. It seemed like the world was literally coming to an end, from kids staying home. I was like, what, and it was like Erev Pesach, and like, and they're going to be home for a month, and then like this thing and that thing and the other thing. And I was just like, what is going on? And I just took my guitar and sat out on my porch, and I was just like, just strumming just to like cope, like just a little therapy. And this tune came up, and I started singing some words to it, and really it was actually like I was living this song for a second. Like I was really feeling down, which is how the song starts, not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring. And then, I was looking up at the sky, and it was a gorgeous day where like I have, Baruch Hashem, really nice flowers. It's one of my hobbies I started planting a couple of years ago. And like these flowers are like budding right before Pesach, it's Chodesh Aviv, and it was just beautiful, and the sky and the birds. And I was like, we live in such a beautiful world, and yet the world seems like it's crazy. But like I was getting, inspiration from the fact that we still live in a beautiful world, and hopefully it'll be beautiful again. If we look up at the sky and we realize that, like, that hasn't changed, even though everything else has changed, but like there's still a nice sky, that the birds are still singing. Like hopefully we'll get back to that normal world one day. And that's kind of how the song came about. And I liked it so much. The next day I just recorded it live, which I never do, and I sent it out on my social media, and I got really nice feedback from people saying like I really got chizik from this, and it really inspired me. And I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to put this song out like professionally and produce it. And basically it was one of the fastest songs I put out. I think actually it just went really well. I hooked up with Yitzi Barry, Eli Klein, who I've worked with in the past, but this time they've really just knocked it out of the park. It was just amazing working with them. They're so talented. I'm sure you probably interviewed
I had Yitzi Barry
also, right?
I had Yitzi on the show.
There you go. Yeah, so everybody. You got it. Yeah. So They were just phenomenal, and the song really took off to like a different level than what I even imagined it would be. And Baruch Hashem, it came out really, really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you see like it's funny because it as you said, and I mean I know because I live in the same city as you. It was pretty much like that. Every day was like nice and sunny, but everything was going to Gehenna. So people used to ask me, how you doing? I said, well, it's a beautiful day in Gehenna.
Right.
But like everything seemed to like start to clear up, and now as you see, like we've gotten past the past couple months, we've all been home, we've all been dealing with things. It's been nice and sunny, it's been nice and hot, and like getting back to normal. Today it rained. This morning it rained. I got caught in the rain, but it's okay. But it's true, like everything is getting back to, I guess, normal, as we want to call it, but we can't be.
It was the first day I went to shul. I went to shul this morning. I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
I haven't gone to shul in like months. Yeah. So I went to shul this morning, and I was like, wow. I just felt like it's like still debatable. Like, should you be doing certain things even though they're becoming open or not? And like, it's hard to. I felt like it's Rosh Chodesh, and like I see other people going. I felt like I had to, but like I went to shul this morning, and it was like, wow, take that for granted. But
listen, it's things are starting to get back to normal. But to have a song like that, to have something like that, and to give chizik to people in these times, it's definitely something major. And kol hakavod, kol hakavod. It's very, very good. But you said this is like the fastest song you ever produced?
I think so. I mean, it moved very, very fast. A lot of times there's like a lot of drafts, that you can, between you and an arranger, you're like, well, the truth is there's so much I could tell you. Like I said, it's been a whole process, but basically in between my first and second album, something that I did, which helps the process of me making songs go faster, is I actually opened my own studio, which I'm in right now. Right. So I didn't have that on my first album. And like I said, my first album took like 2 years to produce. And I just felt it was just like so painfully slow. It was like I would send the song to an arranger, and I felt like there was like, with music, you could really like one person could hear it differently than what you imagine. And like, I feel like they would send me back a song and be like, that's not how I imagined it. Like, you have to do this or that. And like, I didn't know how to talk the language of music with my words. I felt like I have to do it for them to like hear a sample or something. Right. So I basically got, also another thing was also recording vocals was not easy for me in like a real studio. It was like intimidating, like sitting in there and like, just, it's very intimidating. So I felt like a home studio would really work for me. So I basically created DL Studios, which I'm in right now, and that's how I got set up over here. And that helped the process go a lot faster, because I basically make demos and I send it to an arranger, which already has a lot of what I want in it, and then they just take it to like the professional level. And so that really makes things go a lot faster.
That's so cool.
So basically, Yeah, it's a huge help.
Do you let people
So
record in your studio?
yeah, I do studio work for people. I'm actually kind of producing like 2 albums for like bar mitzvah kids. It's really cute. Like I do more demo work, like I said,
Right.
but I got good at it. So like, people come to me and they want like their bar mitzvah kid who has like a really good voice, and they should use their talent, but they're not going to go like produce an album which is like $100,000.
Right.
That's crazy. But what I can do for them is do something which is affordable. And I do things for like camps also. Sometimes they have camp songs people send to me and they want me to sing it. I'm able to do that in my studio and create demos for them and bar
That's
mitzvahs
awesome.
and yeah, anniversaries and Sheva Brachos. I've done all that type of stuff in my studio, which just sort of came about as like
That's
a
so
byproduct of what
awesome.
I've done. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It,
It's
it,
really a lot of fun also because like it's not a heavy project and I could actually enjoy it. Like sometimes like these big projects which like you're investing so much and they're like intense, because like you're
right.
investing tens of thousands of dollars sometimes into even a song. So it
Right.
could be like stressful, but these projects are just more like fun and like I enjoy them. It really, yeah, they're a lot
That's
of
so
fun.
cool. That is so cool. Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of people with like studios around here. I know I've
Yeah,
noticed, and
they're
I've
really
been to.
easy today. They're just Yeah, they're just affordable. It just today it's all digital, so like you're not like buying all these huge machines that cost tens of thousands of dollars.
But it seems
So
like
it's
here a lot of people have been turning their machsanim into studios. Like I know Ari has one.
yeah,
Benjamin Rubenstein and Dan Isaac have one up here. I was in their studio a couple times. There's a few people I know in the Moshav next door who have. There's a big studio over there. It's like
yeah,
there's a lot of music going on out here, which is really cool.
yeah. I've been told. Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's very very cool. Now, what out of all the people you've worked with, out of all the people you collaborate with, who is the coolest one? What's a fun story about it?
I don't know. That's a hard question. Um, I mean, on my first album, I was able to collaborate with A.B. Rottenberg, which was like really special for me, especially on my first album. It was like he composed a song, and I was able to, Mehera, and that was the first song actually I released. Even like that was like really my Shalom Aleichem to the world, sort of. I just released this little song that I think he composed for one of his daughter's weddings. That was really nice. I've collaborated also on the first album with Yosef Karduner, which was really special. On my second album, I had Aaron Rozelle. That was really nice. We did a really nice song, which so many people thought should have been like so much bigger. Like the people that were involved in it, Miriam Israeli wrote the lyrics, and
Oh,
she
she's
like was
great.
obsessed with it. Yeah, she
I
was
had her.
obsessed with the song. Yeah, I'm sure you did. Anyone I'm gonna say I'm sure was on your show already. Um, that was a really special song. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I worked with a lot of people. It's hard to say who was like more special than the other, but um, yeah, it was a real privilege to work with these people. They're really talented.
When you worked with Rapinchas, did he tell you any fun stories?
Well, I mean, the song I did with him, Yom Yom, was it's really his story. I mean, he's gone through so many health issues.
Yes.
He should have a Shalem. I know right now also he's I think due for another surgery,
It,
and the man is just driven by like life and like
it,
the song Yom Yom was just about like he came back from one of these crazy surgeries and like he was literally trying to take it day by day because just simple
he,
things like going to the bathroom were
right.
not simple. And the message was Yom Yom, and he sent me the song, and it was just so moving. And I really pushed him. Actually, he never did this before. He never had an English song, and like we touched upon before, I said I really think that a song like this should speak to people in more than just the words. The whole song was just Baruch Hashem Yom Yom when he sent it to me, and I really pushed him, and he was into it, and we turned it into an English song basically for the most part, and it really just describes how to be thankful for every day, and yeah.
When I was with him last summer, we were at a wedding, and he was telling me the story about how he was having one of these surgeries, and they're putting him under the gas, and the whole time he's just singing. He's just singing to himself, and they're looking at him like this
Yeah.
guy's nuts, and like the entire time he's just like singing and humming and just like living the like just like so labadic. And he said to me, like, they literally looked at me like I was nuts. And Baruch Hashem, it went well, and he recovered, and yeah, no, he's a great guy. He's
I
just a
had
gem.
my phone off for the interview. I'm just turning it on right now because he called me like a couple of weeks ago after he had a major surgery, and a song that he knows, and he told crazy surgery on his throat, and he didn't know if he would be able to sing. Meanwhile, he started singing to me the song. I was just so moved. He doesn't even know I did this. I hope he doesn't mind. I started recording him in the middle on my phone. Let me play you a second of it. I mean, it was just so cute. Can you hear this? Can you hear that?
That's amazing.
It was like a week after his surgery and he was just like singing to me. I'm like, how are you doing this? I was so moved. I just had to record him and like hear that. It was just so special. He's a very special person. Yeah.
Yeah, Kanai Nahara. Yeah, see, it's funny. Detroit doesn't realize how big of a famous gem he is. It's really funny. No, I'm serious. Like, people don't realize how famous he is, and I think he likes it like that. But like when I first realized how famous when I was there and I first realized how famous he was, and people were just talking to him like he's this regular old guy, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like the people in the shul are just like talking to him like he's this regular guy, and I'm just like, I said to my father, I said, these people realize who this guy is? And he's like, nope. They're friends.
He's one of these people that he doesn't do it for the fame or anything. He really just does it because he has all these rights and he just wants to put it out for Klal Yisrael. That's really he's really pure like that. It just, yeah.
Kanai Nahara. Yeah. So I was gonna ask. I asked you before if you're interested in doing a little song for us. I see your guitar in the background.
Sure.
It's just staring at me.
You have my guitar? Yeah, I'll pull it out. You want my latest song?
I would love your latest song. This is how it started. You just pulled out your guitar one day and you're sitting out there strumming. You probably have a great view of like the entire city from your porch, don't you? Like, you could probably look out and see the horizon.
I do see a lot. I used to see more when I moved in before the building on Uriah built up a level, and now I just see into their living. But it's great. Yeah, it's all good. I still have a nice view from like certain angles.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Baruch Hashem. All right, you ready for this? Can you hear me?
I'm ready. We can hear you.
All right, are we doing the full version of the song?
Do it.
All right, we'll try to get through it. I woke up the other day to a world uncertainty so great, and I don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. The stories and the endless news, feeling helpless, yeah, I got the blues. Things just seem to get worse day by day. But then I see the blue skies and I begin to recognize this wonderful world that you created. The birds that sing to you and the trees that praise you too. And so now I sing to you. אני בחסדך בטחתי, הגן ליבי בישועתך. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, הגן ליבי בישועתך. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, הגן ליבי בישועתך. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, הגן ליבי בישועתך. It's hard to see you by my side, and I don't know what to ever see tonight. I keep searching for those open doors, but it seems to me there ain't no more. They just keep on closing in on me. But then I see the blue skies and I begin to recognize this wonderful world that you created. The birds that sing to you and the trees that praise you too. And so now I sing to you. ואני בחסדך בטחתי, הגן ליבי בישועתך. 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 King of Malaloy, King of Malaloy, Yeshida. It's to you I sing, on you that I rely, King of Malaloy. Ani b'chadzecha matachti, oh, Gelbi, Yeshuatecha, Ani b'chadzecha matachti, Gelbi, Yeshuatecha, Ani b'chadzecha matachti, Gelbi, Yeshuatecha,
That was amazing. That was amazing. Kol hakavod. Well, David, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on my show finally. Thank you for that musical number, and I wish you. I'm so happy we finally did this, and I think now is the perfect time, especially with the song. Now people can see this, people can get inspired. I felt inspired. I really genuinely felt inspired by that song. Like I felt it in me. So I just want to say thank you so much for that. Thank you for coming on my show, and I wish you tremendous hatzlacha, and hope that once everything gets back to normal, we'll start to see more concerts, more things like that from you in the future. Mirz Hashem.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. My pleasure. Well, like I said, yeah, Mirz Hashem. Mirz Hashem. Thank you again. Thanks so much for coming on the show. And I look forward to seeing more good things from you in the future, man.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Sure, Kaltuf.
You've just listened to another wonderful episode of GoSimcha the podcast. For more news, updates, and information on our next episode, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at GoSimcha Live, and don't forget to check out the show notes and videos on www.gosimcha.com along with zeradio.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, Go Simcha!